Hi there, and welcome to Films According to Chris Wyatt, my YouTube channel and blog dedicated to all things film. For my debut episode, here are the top 10 worst films that I saw in the year 2013. Just a little disclaimer, I don't really have a set formula or list of how I critique films or how I came to the conclusion that these 10 films were the worst I'd seen. Not really anyways. I mean, there are things I look at, there's the usual, is it well acted, well written, well directed, well shot, well edited, that basic stuff. That's pretty straightforward though. But also just what went into the making of it. And I do try to be as objective as possible, but that is sometimes, most of the time, easier said than done. You always got to look at, what was the budget, who directed this, who was in it. Is this a film made by a team of well-established veteran actors and directors, or is this a film made by a couple film school students who just recently graduated? So all those things do affect my overall opinion of a film, among other things. So I try not to let it, but it just kind of happens. But anyways, these are the top 10 films that I hated the most from 2013.
Number 10. A Good Day to Die Hard.
What makes this one so bad, if you haven't been following, A Good Day to Die Hard is Die Hard 5. And here's the thing about it. It's a bad movie. There's no escaping that. It's not well made at all. But here's the thing. Had it been just any other generic action film under a different title, it might have escaped this list. Maybe. But the fact that it actually carries the name Die Hard kind of secured a spot on this list. The first film, I think we can all agree, is one of the greatest action films of all time. It had a really unique premise. It had incredible action scenes, suspenseful, thrilling, and an impeccably cast Bruce Willis. It was really, truly a great film, and its status as a classic is very much well-deserved. The fifth one, not the case. It has a script that embraces every single action cliche in the book, and Bruce Willis and the whole cast in general could not look any more bored. Bruce Willis's son, or John McClane's son, Jack, I don't remember the actor who played him, could not be a more unlikable and whiny character if he tried. You gotta ask yourself, is the action at least good? And no, not really. It's full of, shaky cam crap, and it was nice to see mostly practical effects used, but yeah, that didn't really do much, because when it did use CGI, it looked unbelievably fake. John McClane survives, stunts and stuff that no human being could ever live through, and I know that a lot of action films that do that, but yeah, that really took you out. Yeah, A Good Day to Die Hard sucks. No question about that.
007 of Plainfield, New Jersey.
Number 9. Carrie.
I've actually taken a bit of flack for giving this film such a negative review, mainly because I was accused of going too hard on it because I love the original film so much. And I will come out and say this, I am a huge fan of the original 1976 film, but when people say that I didn't give it a chance, I don't buy that. If I really didn't want to give it a chance, I wouldn't have seen it, but I did, and in theaters no less. And yeah, I thought it sucked, and I guess why I thought it sucked was that it was just a pointless remake. There was really no reason to remake it the way they did. It's just, it's basically just a rehash of the original with an updated plot, with an updated setting rather, and that is in my opinion the worst way to ever remake a film. If they had a new direction to take it in, or if they wanted to just do a more faithful adaptation of the book, I would have been okay with that. Well, maybe not okay with it, but at least I would have appreciated that they were trying something different. The only thing it did try a little different that I almost got into was that they tried to tweak the character of Margaret Wyatt, Carrie's mother, in the original played by Piper Laurie and the remake played by Julianne Moore. Now, if there's one complaint I can levy against both the original movie and the book for that matter, it's that the character of Margaret, she's a bit one note. She doesn't really have much of a character arc or or a whole lot of depth other than just being a worthy adversary to Carrie. But there was hints of something else going on in her in both the book and the movie that could have been interesting had they explored. And it looked like in the remake for a while they were. Both kind of a tragic past and why she became the way she did. But once again, a lot of that just gets sidetracked for redoing most of the scenes from the original film so we can get to the infamous prom climax. But, none of it is nearly as compelling. It's not particularly well shot. The editing was so full of continuity errors and bad cuts that it really took me out of the film. And, Julianne Moore is actually pretty good as Margaret Wyatt, and I liked that she tried something different instead of just trying to copy Piper Laurie's performance. And Chloe Grace Moretz really did put her best foot forward as Carrie, and she's not bad at all. So yeah, but despite two strong performances, it's just a pretty flat, dull movie. You can skip it, watch the original instead.
Number 8. Paranoia.
This is a film that I saw, I think, a month or two ago. I didn't see it in theaters. I caught it on digital download. It's one I remember so little about. It's not the worst film I saw from the year, but it might be the one that made the least impression on me the whole year, which is saying something. When you've got a film with Harrison Ford and Gary Oldman and Richard Dreyfuss, it's like that. You would expect, really, those guys? They should make a good film, right? No, they really don't. It's a corporate espionage thriller. Liam Hemsworth plays the main character, and who is probably best known for The Hunger Games, but he is way too bland of an actor to carry a film like this. It was just so bland, so uninspired, so dull. None of the actors really looked like they were giving a damn. Like I said, Liam Hemsworth couldn't act his way out of a paper bag, and yeah, it's just plain dull, stupid. There's really no reason to see it whatsoever.
You stood on our shoulders! And now I'm standing on your neck!
Number 7. R.I.P.D.
What makes this film bad is kind of frustrating because it has a really cool premise. I love this idea, actually. It's based on a graphic novel, which I have not read, so I can't critique that. But it's about two cops who have both died that track down renegade spirits who have escaped judgment. Now, I love that premise. I think it's a really clever idea. It was described as Men in Black meets Ghostbusters, and yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Boy, did they fuck it up. What makes this so bad, though, is not just that the effects are bad. You can overcome that. It's that it just was completely lazy and so sloppily made. None of the actors had any interest in what's going on. Ryan Reynolds' performance can only be described as, well, pardon the pun, but completely lifeless. And then you have Kevin Bacon playing the bad guy, and normally I really like Kevin Bacon, and he's usually good in these kind of roles, but yeah, no, not this time. He just didn't give a damn. The only one who had any energy was Jeff Bridges. And that's not to say it was a good performance. You couldn't understand what the guy was saying. It sounded like he had marbles in his mouth for half of the movie. But he was the only one that put forth any energy and any commitment to it, and he almost works. But, oh boy, it's just a bad film. The plot made no sense. The effects were bad, like I said. Action, pretty stale. Great premise, completely wasted.
Don't tense up.
Number 6. After Earth.
What makes this film so bad is another interesting story. Well, one, it's an M. Night Shyamalan film, and I'm beginning to think I should just always have a spot reserved on these worst of lists whenever he makes a film. But also because it's really a big vanity project for Will Smith and his son Jaden Smith. Will Smith plays this super famous, well-respected warrior. Will Smith is a famous actor, and he wants his son to follow in his footsteps. Subtle. The problem is, for one, Jaden Smith is really bad in this film, and I kind of hate to go too hard on the guy because, for one, he made a pretty decent film. The remake of The Karate Kid I thought was not too bad, but my god, is he terrible in this. And even Will Smith, too, downplays his usual charisma and personality. I guess he didn't want to steal the show from his son, but yeah, he's just boring as hell in this, and that's too bad. A little side note here. Will Smith turned down the starring role in Django Unchained to do this film. Think about that for a second. Will Smith turned down a Quentin Tarantino film to star in a film directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Think about that.
Danger is very real.
Number 5. The Purge.
Now here's another film that I had to put on the list simply because it takes a really interesting idea and totally squanders it. The Purge takes place in the not too distant future where America has been taken over by a new government that rose to power on the basis of an annual event known as the Purge. And this time, for a 12-hour period, all crime is legal, up to and including murder. The logic is that American citizens can get out all of their evil thoughts and inhibitions out in that one 12-hour period, and for the rest of the year be decent, law-abiding citizens. Interesting idea, really interesting idea actually. It does have some social allegory elements that could have actually worked for an event like the Purge. It's the upper class citizens, the higher income ones, that are going to be able to afford protection or defense, while the ones who, clearly don't make as much are more likely to suffer during this Purge. And yeah, you can do a lot of interesting things with that story, and every once in a while it has an interesting idea that they don't really go with. It's so heavy-handed. The characters are pretty much just complete caricatures of the ideas they're trying to represent, but with no depth or personality. They just turned it into a really generic slasher film. It's not very suspenseful. It's not very insightful. It should have and could have been so much better.
Everything is gonna be okay.
Nothing is ever going to be okay again.
Number 4. Two-way tie between Scary Movie 5 and A Haunted House.
I put these two together because basically I hate them for the same reasons. Because this year we didn't get just one, but two shitty Paranormal Activity spoofs. If you've seen one scary movie, you've seen them all. It's just a series of bad slapstick and terrible dick and fart jokes. Very, very, very few of which are funny. I've never been a big fan of the Scary Movie series to begin with, I'll be honest. But this one is easily the worst. I think in Scary Movie 5 I had maybe one chuckle throughout the whole 2-hour or 90-minute movie. Haunted House I think is just a tad bit better, just a tad, because I think I got maybe 2 or 3 chuckles throughout that film. Nothing more than a series of dick and fart jokes and lame pop culture humor that's gonna be dated, and I think it's probably already dated, to be honest. If you're looking for a good spoof, good horror movie spoof anyways, go rent Young Frankenstein. Mel Brooks was good at this. I miss the days of his films.
Number 3. The Host.
Wow, this was an interesting film to watch. Now that the Twilight films are done, and I guess filmmakers have been looking for a while to find the new big teen young adult series to take its place. I think the Hunger Games series has pretty much claimed that spot, but not like they didn't try with The Host. It takes the basic Invasion of the Body Snatchers plot and tries to do something that could be interesting, namely alien parasites that are basically injected or entered into the conscious of living humans and who overtake both their bodies and their minds. It can raise interesting questions about, the conscious mind. Is what the aliens are doing ethical because they are killing humans, but at the same time they're peaceful living creatures and there's no war in society or anything like that. You could do something interesting with that, but instead they basically just turn it into another love story, not too unlike the Twilight series. The whole movie becomes about this really stupid and pointless love story, instead of the more interesting aspects like the band of human survivors that are waging war against these aliens, and the alien band that is trying to eliminate what's left of humanity because they are doing something they genuinely believe is for the benefit of society. Those are interesting ideas, and you can do something kind of cool with it. But centering the whole film about just another cheesy, you know, teen-centric love story that really doesn't work at all, just totally kills any promise this movie had. Yeah, I think anything by Stephanie Meyer at this point should be avoided.
Come with us. I'd rather die.
Wait, come on!
Number 2. Movie 43.
Movie 43 is one of the most painful movie experiences I've had in years. I was actually sure for the longest time that this would be my number 1 pick, but I'll get to that when I get to number 1. But no, movie 43 is not just one of the worst comedies I've ever seen, it's one of the most repulsive at the same time. Basically a series of sketches starring some big name actors, like really big name actors actually, and each one is just disgusting, offensive, and unbelievably unfunny. It's like, how did they get all these big name actors to be in these films? I think the first sketch was about a blind date between Kate Winslet and Hugh Jackman, and the joke was Hugh Jackman's character has balls on his chin. That is the joke of that sketch, and it plays out pretty much how you would expect. And there are a series of other sketches too that just get so much worse. I did not have one laugh in the whole film, and I was cringing through almost the whole thing. It is one of the worst films of the decade even, so yeah, avoid this one at all costs. It's so not worth seeing. Okay, now before I get to my number 1 pick, here are a few dishonorable mentions.
Everything you know is wrong. Black is white, up is down, and short is long. And everything you thought was just so important doesn't matter. Everything you know is wrong. Just forget the words and sing along. All you need to understand is everything you know is wrong.
And the worst movie of 2013 is The Lone Ranger.
Now, after I just went on that big rant against movie 43, you're probably wondering, you know, really, why this one instead of movie 43? And in many ways, yes, objectively, movie 43 is a worse made film. But why I put this one as number 1 is because it represents everything that is wrong with Hollywood today. Well, for starters, Johnny Depp as Tonto is just almost sickening. The fact that you have a white actor playing a native character is in red face, no less, is just like, I can't believe somebody would actually do that in this day and age. But more than that too, it's just not a well-made film. It does have 1 or 2 half-decent action scenes, but even those are kind of meh. But the way it just takes a shit on the property is, why? For starters, Armie Hammer might be the worst movie hero of the year. The fact that they basically turn him into this buffoon who succeeds not through skill or virtue or determination, but just through dumb luck, really, is kind of stupid to begin with. But even more so than that, it's unnecessarily dark. They turned the main villain, sorry, I can't remember his name, they turned him into a cannibal. And all the other villains are basically just rehashes of Barbossa's crew from the Pirates of the Caribbean films. And the film was directed by Gore Verbinski, who directed the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, just in case you weren't aware. And that's the other thing I really don't like about this film, is the fact that it's made by talented people. Gore Verbinski has directed some really good movies in the past, and even more than that, you know, Johnny Depp has been in tons of great things. Everything about this film, it's boring, it's dull, it's offensive, and yeah, it's the worst film of 2013. I know you may disagree with me on that, but this is the kind of film that pisses me off the most as a moviegoer and a lover of filmmaking.
Something very wrong with that horse.
Alright, thank you so much for watching my video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and click the like button below the video, and tune in next week where I'll be telling you my top 10 favorite films from 2013. If you want some written reviews, feel free to visit my blog right here, and click subscribe if you want to see more upcoming videos. Thanks again, I'll see you next time.